Mia, and she introduced herself to the jury here by saying that Sean Combs had sexually assaulted her.
She testified that she was a rape victim.
The first time she met Combs, she said he was in his underwear.
What happens when a celebrity's name is powerful enough to allegedly stop the police in their tracks in this courtroom? Drama Diddy not only faces accusations of rape, but also shocking claims that his influence reaches deep into law enforcement. Stay tuned as we unravel the chilling testimony from a former assistant that left the courtroom stunned.
I have no idea how it's possible, and I'm sure Mia is probably panicking in this moment in time. Like, are people stalking her on the internet, trying to figure out her identity? She testified that she was a rape victim, essentially. There's rape shield laws that exist to try to protect people in her position. And so this is really getting very nerve-wracking probably for her, and just absurd for the courtroom.
Yeah, this testimony today was from a woman who was testifying as under the name Mia. The judge said this is a pseudonym and that no one was to record her. She was, they wanted to keep her anonymity. It was the deal with the prosecution. But she was talking about, she is a former assistant of Diddy's, and talked about a 2010 incident where Diddy and Cassie found out that Prince was having this private house party. Diddy didn't want to go. He was staying home and said that Cassie should not go. But Cassie was at home with Mia, and they talked about it and decided they were going to go. So they went to the party. She says they were having a great time watching Prince perform on a dining room table. And then suddenly she saw Diddy walk in and was terrified. And she grabbed Cassie, and she said they ran out of the party. They ran across the street. They are hiding in a wooded area behind some bushes. But Diddy found them and grabbed Cassie, she said, and started to assault her when suddenly one of Prince's security guards ran over there and had to pull Diddy off of Cassie, separate them, and that was the end of the violence for that particular evening. But the way she described it on the stand, it really sounded like a movie playing out, and you could really see, envision.
Who exactly is the woman known as Mia? And why did her testimony send shockwaves through the courtroom, hidden behind a pseudonym to protect her identity? Mia worked as Diddy's assistant for 8 years, a tenure she described as anything but ordinary. For nearly a decade, Mia had a front row seat to one of the most glamorous and high-pressure worlds imaginable, but according to her, that world was full of darkness. No one saw on the surface. Mia testified that working for Diddy wasn't just demanding, it was all-consuming. In her own words, her life became his life. She chronicled how her responsibility extended far beyond typical assistant duties like managing schedules or arranging travel. She was tasked with ensuring nothing disturbed his image, a role that allegedly involved lying, intimidating others on his behalf, and sometimes even covering up behavior that, she says, left her shaken. She recounted moments when Diddy's temper spiraled into loud and chaotic outbursts, often directed at those who worked closest to him while she spoke. There was a palpable tension in the courtroom. It was clear the jury was hearing about more than just a difficult boss. This was a world of fear, control, and constant intimidation. Control seemed to be a defining word in her testimony. One vivid example included a day when she claimed Diddy accused her of speaking to a guest at an event for too long. What followed was, as she described, a tirade so intense her voice still trembled. Recounting it, she alleged that personal boundaries didn't exist in his employment, that every part of her life was subject to his scrutiny. Even during private moments, she claimed she wasn't fully free, with Diddy allegedly calling or tracking her at odd hours to further enforce his authority over her. This pattern of behavior, as experts on workplace abuse often point out, creates an emotional environment that discourages rebellion or external complaints. In these scenarios, Mia's story shows how power dynamics in such settings are practically impossible to challenge. Testifying against someone of Diddy's status is no small decision. The courtroom saw the weight of it as Mia began to choke up, describing how hard it was to bring this sort of truth into the open. It's a step that not everyone would choose, particularly against one of the most high-profile figures in entertainment. The courage behind such a move is part of what makes her statement so impactful. Her words forced the room into silence, even as murmurs of disbelief occasionally rippled through the gallery. But the real blow came when Mia began to describe not just what she witnessed, but what she personally endured. At this point in her testimony, you could feel a sense of unease creeping across the courtroom. It was as if everyone understood they were now about to hear far more than they were prepared for. And then she began to reveal the personal allegations that would grip not just the jury, but the public.
And she introduced herself to the jury here by saying that Sean Combs had sexually assaulted her. She hasn't testified about it yet. Instead, she's talking about times she said she witnessed violence against Cassie Ventura, the time she said Combs slammed her head against a bed and drew blood and left a gash in Cassie Ventura's eyebrow, the time they attended a party against Combs's wishes at Prince's house when they danced on plexiglass covering the pool. Prince performed, but then Combs arrived, chased them down, and was about to attack Cassie when she said Prince's security intervened. She also, this woman Mia, gave the jury a sense of what it was like to be his personal assistant.
What I find more troubling and less likely is if this video is being sent by random people on the internet, and that's what they want to proffer as evidence in this criminal trial, I find that hard to be admitted. If they could track the video from one person who could confirm the identity of the person, and then it could be used for impeachment evidence, that's different. But random people on the internet sending videos, that opens the door to a can of worms.
Well, I mean, Tyler, they would have to authenticate it, make sure it's real, and couldn't they theoretically be able to use it?
They could theoretically be able to use it, but it seems like they're trying to use it right now when Mia's going to get put back on the stand. I haven't heard of any witness to authenticate this video yet. They're just talking about displaying this video. That's what seems to be a little odd to me.
The first time she met Combs, she said he was in his underwear. And then the first day on the job, she said she didn't sleep because she was made to go to his house, to his recording studio, to an apartment. She also said that she worked sometimes 5 days in a row without sleep and was made to do everything from anticipating his moods to cracking his knuckles to doing his taxes to standing there 22 hours a day.
The moment Mia began recounting her experience in court, the air shifted. Her voice trembled as she introduced the darkest chapter of her time working under Diddy, detailing an alleged rape that she claims took place behind closed doors. She described the lead-up as one of calculated isolation, alleging that Diddy created environments where she felt coerced. Into compliance on this particular occasion, Mia said she was summoned to his private quarters late at night under the pretense of discussing an urgent matter related to work. What unfolded next was a nightmare she had kept buried for years. The courtroom was silent but heavy as she unraveled the events according to her testimony. Diddy's demeanor that night was menacing and left no room for refusal. She recounted how every instinct told her to leave, yet the power imbalance made her feel frozen as she spoke about the moment the alleged assault occurred. Some jurors looked visibly uncomfortable while others jot down notes with somber expressions. The prosecution made no effort to soften her words, instead, allowing the rawness of her testimony to sink in. Every detail painted a picture of fear, coercion, and absolute dominance, a dynamic that, according to Mia, defined their professional relationship as well. For spectators, the intensity of her testimony was underscored by the reactions it provoked. A woman in the gallery was seen wiping away tears, while Diddy sat rigid, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Occasionally, he'd glance at his lawyer, but mostly his gaze hovered somewhere between the floor and the corner of the room. The strained expressions of those present reflected the weight of what Mia was alleging, a complete dismantling of the glamorous and untouchable aura that often surrounds a celebrity of Diddy's stature. Experts who study the psychology of trauma often point out how recounting such experiences publicly can be re-traumatizing in cases like this. The witness must not only relive their trauma, but also present every detail in a way that holds up under scrutiny. Maya seemed aware of this, yet her voice, though shaken, grew steadier as her testimony continued. The prosecution framed her allegations as part of a broader pattern, suggesting that the assault she described was not an isolated incident, but a reflection of Diddy's systemic abuse of power. By bringing Mia's voice to the forefront, they amplified what they argued was a long history of exploitation, masked by wealth, fame, and influence. One moment stood out, silencing even the quiet rustle of papers. Mia broke down as she described how afterward Diddy acted as if nothing had happened. This disregard, she said, compounded the trauma. It wasn't just the act itself, but the implication that her pain was irrelevant. The courtroom remained still for several seconds following her words, a pause that seemed to linger far longer than it did. Meanwhile, Diddy's composure began to show cracks. Observers noted subtle gestures, a clenched jaw, quickened blinks that betrayed his apparent confidence earlier in the trial. But Mia's testimony wasn't just about herself, as she hinted at the horror she had witnessed involving others. The prosecution prepared to pull back the curtain on what she claimed to have seen happening to Cassie Ventura, and this next revelation would only deepen the growing unease in the room.
I don't think so. I think that would be like the best appeal point ever on the side of the defense. I think the case gets overturned because you're violating the confrontation clause. You know, you're taking away Diddy's right to confront his accuser, especially because she's already given all of the testimony that was apparently positive for the prosecution, and then cutting her off before even one question could be asked by or maybe not one, but you know, the full cross-examination be completed. I think it gets overturned.
What do you think the judge is going to do here? I mean, do you think the judge is first of all, can the judge order an investigation into this? And also, Tyler, do you think the judge is going to allow this piece of evidence in? If we're reading this correctly through the transcript, that this is a situation where she might be faking the way she's speaking on the stand, feels like relevant evidence for cross-examination, but at the same time, the way they're getting it and the issue of her identity being revealed, A, can the judge order some sort of investigation here? And B, you think he's going to allow this video in?
Well, it's probably 3 o'clock right now, or close to 2 o'clock. If I was the judge, which I'm not, I think this would be a good time to let's see what this video looks like. Let's see what the testimony would be given, what examination questions will be asked by the defense. Let's break for the day, and he'll make his ruling and start on Monday fresh, whether this video is going to be allowed in or not allowed in. I think that would be a good way for the court to explore, you know, the potential pitfalls here, see how the defense is going to authenticate this video. Now, regarding any additional protections for Mia, I think that the court and the parties involved in this case have appeared to do everything possible to protect her identity. But the fact of the matter is, this is a high-profile case. People are watching this all across the country. And if you were to think that she would be on the stand giving facts about pictures with Cassie and being in South Africa, that people weren't looking on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, anywhere else on social media to try to put two and two together, that's hard to believe. So I'm not shocked that people have identified her, because I'm pretty sure people are on their phones right now trying to look into her. Yeah, they're not going to allow the video in. They were saying that there's been substantial social media posts already admitted into evidence showing that Mia has been in communications and contact with Mr. Combs, and that she said things like, "I love you, you're a mentor," and things of that nature. But it sounds like this video, the defense believe this is going to be some strong evidence. I'm pretty sure they're going to want their objections noted for the record. So this could be an issue on appeal if this is highly prejudicial for Mr. Combs' case.
Well, Serena, I mean, it seems like they're saying we're using it for a different purpose. We're not trying to suggest, hey, she's making up the story because look at, positive posts she's making about Sean Combs. But no, this video shows she's not talking the same affect that she is on the stand. So it seems, if I'm understanding correctly, they're trying to use this video for a different kind of impeachment.
I totally agree with you. And I think, not to assume too many things, but to me, this feels like the judge saying, you know what, I'm just going to say it's cumulative because we got to keep this trial going. We have Mia on the stand who's probably falling apart. I'm not going to want to bring her back on Monday. Finish her testimony, get her off the stand. Let's keep this trial moving at the right pace. And I do agree with you. I think that the judge is just making that decision to make that decision. I don't think it's actually cumulative.
You know, it's a great question. By the way, another update in court. Brian Steele, this is Sean Combs' defense counsel, one of them, can I ask if she sent it? Can I ask if she sent it? The judge says yes. I'm going to ask about scrapbooks. The prosecutor and I have a disagreement. I have 3 copies, one for the jurors to pass around. The honorable prosecutor and I disagree. So it looks like a separate question. Here's a great question from Michelle LaBelle. Tyler, how does the public know how she's acting in court, which is different than usual if they're not allowed in court? So that makes me think now, the only people to know how she's actually testifying and the way that she's speaking are those who are in the courtroom. Now, I'm not making any conspiracy theories here, but that's a good question, right? Why would this video be circulating? Unless of course, someone found out her identity from the outside, just was circulating the video, and defense counsel said, wait a minute. the way she's talking in this video is very different than the way she's talking on the stand, or the more ominous,